Welcome to The World Today. I'm Waqas Majeed. Today we have two stories to discuss in our program. The first one is to do with the American envoy that has met General Bajwa at the GHQ to discuss Afghan peace. And our second story is to do with the water terrorism that India is indulging in against Pakistan. Once again, India has refused to allow Pakistani investigate, or rather the Indus Water Treaties officials to visit the dams that they're constructing on the Chenab River. We'll talk about that as well. Now, to talk about these things, let me introduce my guests in the studio. Joining me for the conversation today, first of all, we have Tahir Khan Saab. He's a journalist. And joining him, we have Major S.M. Bashir, a defense analyst. Thank you very much for being here. Tahir Saab, I'll start with you. Let's start with the situation in Afghanistan. We recently saw a very tragic attack take place in which some American officials, high-ranking military officials, barely escaped with their lives, and the chief of police of Kandahar was killed in that attack. What does that indicate to you where things are heading towards in Afghanistan?
Thank you. If we particularly discuss this issue, the attack in Kandahar, so Afghan foreign minister, when he spoke to Pakistani foreign minister, he said there are some questions. But I think the question, yes, there are questions, but from them. Because I listened yesterday the Afghan intelligence chief, Masoom Stanagzai, who was in Kandahar after the attack was happened. Yesterday he says that the attacker, according to him, he came from the other side of the border 1.5 months ago. And he was recruited with a fake name. Here is the problem. How a young boy, whoever he is, he comes from anywhere, how he was recruited in a very sensitive area, and on the particular day, why he was allowed to have a gun inside, because there were very few people. This is the problem on their side of the border. That the Taliban, they have penetrated inside the system. This young boy, after the attack, the Taliban released his video. He was trained. He was trained, and he also recorded a statement, this attacker, and whatever he was saying to the people, this. It means their strategy is more effective than even the foreigners there. So the problem is that yesterday, the impression he was giving the Afghan intelligence chief that this thing is happening from the other side of the border. This is also another tragedy.
Absolutely.
The focus should be who recruited this man? How a young boy.
It's a big question mark on the efficiency of NDS itself, sir.
This I am saying. So if the situation is like this, and your question was how the things are going on in Afghanistan. So this is the main problem. And the security is the issue, the political problem. Unless they focus on these issues and the real causes, so shifting blame on others, divert attention from, it will not solve the problems.
Absolutely. Major Saab, taking a cue from what Tahir Saab is saying, that this constant pointing fingers at Pakistan for the failures of the Afghan government, as well as the failure of the American military might in Afghanistan, how long is it Pakistan going to be the scapegoat for their failures, sir? It's about time that they need to see the situation on the ground and make corrective measures. Why do you think that's not happening, sir?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Waqas. And I think you have asked a very pertinent question, and that is this blame game, which is going on for such a long time. Anything happening in Pakistan also is that intruders were using that ground where the Indians have infiltrated also. Now that is another very big issue which Tahir Saab has mentioned the issues, and this is, I think, should also be included amongst those issues that where the Indian presence is in such a huge number, and they'd never want that the relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan should ever improve for their own advantage. They lose that advantageous game on if they don't really do all these kinds of things and these kind of propaganda which really gears up in Afghanistan. The recent incident is a very sad incident. And no doubt the loss of precious life, whether it happens in Pakistan or it happens in Afghanistan, it's always admonished, and it is always not liked in Pakistan. At least I know that Pakistani people also feel very sad about such incidents, because Pakistan speaks of peace. Pakistan has got a policy of peace which has to prevail in this region, for obvious reasons, that peace in Afghanistan means peace in Pakistan, and peace in Pakistan means peace in Afghanistan. So if we are related on that note, that peace in both countries is in the greater interest of not only these two countries but in the greater interest of this entire region, then there is someone who is trying to play up in this region, who is trying not this to happen. Pakistan has always said that in Afghanistan, Taliban is a reality, and Taliban should be accepted, and Taliban is a reality. And the peace process and the efforts which Pakistan has done to really bring the Kabul regime and the Afghan Taliban in Afghanistan or outside Afghanistan, may it be the Murray Accord or efforts, or may it be elsewhere in the world, to do it, that yes, these should be bridged, and bringing closer to each other also, it makes this was possible only because of Pakistan's effort.
Absolutely.
Now, having said this, I would say that what incident has happened there is, of course, a failure of the system, which shows very breaches are there. There is a breaches, and they need to inwardly see that. If the blame is easy, a scapegoat will not suffice. They need to understand that neither in Pakistan this is now happening, because nor it should happen elsewhere in the world, that you easily try to put blame on the other and make an escape on that. If your system has got breaches, and if your system is not functional and not operative, then you need to plug on that and need to concentrate at that particular effort should be gone in that particular direction. And if that direction is positive, and if that direction is with an aim that yes, we need to look inward where the problem is and we need to bridge it, except for that, buying someone else's narrative of just blaming Pakistan for every not doing, the things which even Pakistan won't even like, the things which Pakistan doesn't even know about it. The things are, it happens in India, they will not take even a second to blame Pakistan for all that. It happens in Afghanistan, Indian channels would be the first to start saying, instead of that we wait for the country in which it has happened. In the same way it happened in this also. The Indians started to say louder than the country itself that yes, it must be from Pakistan. Pakistan is involved in this. So see, if you keep doing this game, is not played on these accounts, if the game is played, then I think peace will be a history. And if peace is history in this region, who is getting the worst affected is the countries living in this region. It's not only that India will not be affected, India will be affected. Afghanistan will get affected, Pakistan will get affected, China will get affected, Russia will get affected, Turkey will get affected. All the countries want to have peace in this region. Pakistan has made such huge sacrifices to bring the end to this menace of terrorism for such a long time, as you were mentioning earlier also, that we even here also have been talking for such a long time on this, and getting into nitty-gritties of all this issue of terrorism. Unless we really are honest to ourselves and honest to this particular cause, then the success is far away, and the results will also be not in a very recent future. It won't be achieved.
And sir, taking a cue from what you're saying, we also have a series of attacks that are made against Pakistan from the Afghan soil, and that is the real problem, which is why Pakistan has initiated the process of fencing the border. Even
Absolutely.
the border fencing that we have been indulging.
This is very interesting you have said, and this is where basically this fencing had started. And not only that, Pakistan always had taken time. Unless we have credible evidence against that, Pakistan has never blamed anyone. May it be APS issue, the Makdam in Peshawar, or anywhere else, a bomb blast in Peshawar just before the elections, even a wave of attacks and all that which happened in Pakistan, Pakistan never blamed unless Pakistan went into details of the things, has credible evidence against it, and then presented it, and then given it, and then presented it, and then concrete actions were taken that yes, it is in the best interest of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it is not in the interest of those who want to exploit this. Let's fence this border. Who is opposing it? Pakistan never opposes for that. Pakistan always wants to go for a solution, a better solution, always for a better modified solutions, for peace to be prevailing in this region. So that's why we are fencing this porous border in such a difficult terrain and such a huge,
But sir, every time we do try to fence the border, it is our soldiers who come under attack from the Afghan side. In fact, it's the Afghan government which attacks our soldiers, the Afghan military that attacks our soldiers. Tahir Saab, would you like to comment on that? And also, if you could talk about what is the fate of the election that has taken place in Afghanistan? How credible are those elections? And what is the process going forward, sir?
Election, I think it is a good sign. Democracy is gradually now strengthening in Afghanistan, and this is good because if we have a democratic country in our neighbor, so this is fine. And the elections were held despite serious challenges.
But they were delayed in Kandahar, sir.
No, yes, I know. It was the election in Kandahar delayed for 1 week because
of this
the incident, and also in Ghazni. The Ghazni election are delayed, and it will take place next year in April, when the presidential election will also be held in April 2019. There are problems, but I think the election process, Pakistan also supported. This was although there was almost 2.5 year delay because these elections were due in 2016. And there are problems in election because the result would be coming after a few days. The counting has not yet started. I think there were some problems. Biometric system was new.
But 50% of the population of Afghanistan is disenfranchised in these elections. The entire Taliban are not a part of these elections. So how credible can these elections really be for the people of Afghanistan, sir? Is there any credibility left there, sir?
I would say because of war in Afghanistan, everyone knows that there is war in Afghanistan, and the war has been for 40 years now. So yes, I'm saying that there were challenges, there were security problems. Taliban are controlling now more area than the past. But despite all these things, if election takes place, despite problems, weaknesses, so I think
we support that.
We support that because a democracy, because we Pakistan.
But is it a real democracy if a large number of people, the Taliban, are not a part of it? So they are people of Afghanistan. So is it democracy then? That's a bigger question.
It is. I would call it a democracy. I told you, despite problem, weaknesses, security problem, warlordism is still there in some part. But I think this election, it was a little change from the previous elections, because young people, like in Pakistan, young people, they were in majority, they were candidates. And the good thing is that even the warlords, like General Rashid Dostum, many people still consider him as a warlord. He is the first vice president. But his party, Jumbashi Milli Islami Afghanistan, he fielded 44 candidates. Hikmatyar, who was fighting the government and the foreign forces 5 years ago, now Hikmatyar, for the first time, is part of the political system. In Hizb Islami, they had 42 candidates. So Hizb Wahdat also had almost 22 candidates. This is good sign that the democracy
is beginning to take root.
It is beginning to take root, and I think we should support this. Yes, there are problems. There would be, you would know, still there are thousands of complaints were registered about the rigging, and there would be more charges about the rigging, these things, like we have in Pakistan also.
There were many candidates who were also killed, sir, in the process.
Of course, there were attacks in Afghanistan, almost in Kabul. When the registration for the voters started in July, there was a big attack in Kabul. Almost 70 people were killed in only one attack.
Yes.
So there were attacks. Five candidates were killed, even before this Kandahar incident. In Helmand,
Absolutely.
the candidate Abdul Jabbar Kaharman, he was very powerful former general, and he was killed in a bomb blast in his office. So, but Afghanistan situation, I think, if we keep in mind all these things, so I think democracy is good for Afghanistan.
Indeed, sir. We support any democratic process or
Yes.
any process for stabilizing
Yes.
Afghanistan. That is what Pakistan desires. Major Sahab, what would be the effects of an abrupt pullout of the US from Afghanistan at this point in time? Because we feel that right now is not the right time for the Americans to completely abandon Afghanistan, as they say, and move out. What is your point of view, sir?
Thank you very much. Waqas, before I really talk about American pullout from Afghanistan, I just want to add to what Tahir Sahib has said, that democracy is an expression of your personal expression if it is expressed in freedom and fair way. And that too also, if we call that yes, elections is or it is an expression, and what has happened in Afghanistan, then there is needs to be also seen that what was the percentage of the people expressing that fair view. Now, if very limited people express their fair view, that means that the entire country's view or the entire public or the population view hasn't come. So then that makes
it raises questions.
It raises questions by itself. The very election was really positive election or not, or was it just by force that the regime which is sitting in Kabul is not ruling at the moment more than 20 or 30% of the total area.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to draw a parallel, sir, there were elections that were held in Indian-held Kashmir as well, with a turnout of 3%.
Absolutely. So I think this was, you can relate these two elections, they are very similar to each other. So these two elections are probably, this is basically only my personal view that that is, because democracy is always better. And it is always welcomed, and it is what in Pakistan we have seen, alhamdulillah, democracy getting now stronger and stronger with turnovers of the governments and government. This time the government we see is a very positive government. We see much younger, as he was saying, much younger people have come, and they would be, for the first time they have come. Few have just, they don't have an experience, but they are very truthfully, they're trying to deliver. They're trying to make an effort to change the things. It's good, but then it has to be represented by the majority of the people as well. That is also very important. If it is suppressed and under suppression it holds, then the democracy in that true way is not expressed in there. And that is what is at the moment happening in Afghanistan, and that is why the Afghan Taliban has to be given a greater role. They have to be brought into the main system, and they need to be given that.
Become part of the political process.
And absolutely.
So we'll come to that, sir. We need to take a short break over here. We'll take a short break, and then when we return, we will talk about the effects of an abrupt pullout of the Americans. So take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back after the break. We're in conversation with Tahir Khan Saab and Major Ehsan Bashir regarding the Afghan situation. Tahir Saab, let me start with you now. When we talk about the Americans thinking about leaving Afghanistan, what repercussions will that really have for the region?
I think the American, now they have started direct talks with the Taliban, and there were two direct meeting, one in July, on 23rd of July with Ellisfield, the Deputy Secretary, and also earlier this month on October 2nd, I think, with Khalilzad, who is now Special Reconciliation Envoy for Afghanistan, in the US Envoy for Afghanistan on reconciliation. This is a major development, and the Americans have accepted this long-standing demand by the Taliban. We don't know exactly what is what they are discussing, but sometime, because I'm a journalist, so we contact the Taliban political office in Qatar, and now they are discussing CBMs, confidence building measure, what to do, both sides. Prisoner is one of the issue. Taliban are demanding the reopening of the office, because this office was closed in 2013, just a few days after it was opened, because Karzai Saab, he objected only on the name, the Islamic Emirat, and also
the flag.
And there were very minor issues. So,
yes. Blown out of proportion, made a mountain out of a molehill, really.
So now this is a positive development, and now Afghan government is also not objecting this direct contact between the two sides. Americans, I think, I don't know what Major Saab would be saying, I think they want to leave. But they will not leave in such a situation unless there is a proper agreement. Because Americans also, they still remember what had happened when the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan. Although there were two agreements, one in Peshawar, one in 1993 in Islamabad when Nawaz Sharif was the Prime Minister. But they did not work. So all these things, I think American would be keeping this in mind. Pakistan, recently I saw two statements, one from the ISPR DG in London, and after a few days after that statement, the Foreign Office, that Pakistan does not want the withdrawal of the American troops unless there is stability in Afghanistan. So this is, the stability point is a right approach. But I think if we say that Americans should not go from Afghanistan, this is, I would differ with Pakistani this approach, because Taliban are fighting because of the presence of the foreign troops. So
Absolutely.
if the foreign troops are there, then the fighting would be there. And I still remember when Pervez Musharraf sided with the Americans, he spoke to the nation and he said that we want the Americans should conclude the operation in limited time. But now it is almost this October. The Americans started the operation on October 7, 2001. Now it is 18 years started now, the war. And now Taliban are more stronger. Taliban, they originated from Kandahar, southern parts of Afghanistan. They were initially fighting in the Pashtun areas, east and the south. Now they are fighting in the north, far from the east and from the south. And in the west, near the border with Iran, they capture for a few hours Farah city. It's near Herat, and Herat is near along the border with Iran. So Taliban are fighting now
everywhere
in the whole country. And every report by the Americans, if the American military, a cigar report, they admit that Taliban are now controlling over 40% area. So 40% area, even if it is rural areas, but it is a huge area. So I think the Americans are thinking, that's why they started talks with the Taliban, and I think this is a right approach. But the Taliban, I think the Taliban should also understand that the Afghan problem and Afghan future would be decided by own Afghans. And the Hikmatyar example is because it's not very old example. Hikmatyar started directly with Afghan government, and Hikmatyar party started from Pakistan. Karzai Saab would say, always he would say that those who talks with the government, so they are killed or kidnapped in Pakistan. But now Zakhilwal Saab, the Afghan ambassador, he admits that Hizb Islami started peace talk with the Afghan government in Islamabad. Pakistan never interfered. And the talk started from here, then it was moved to Afghanistan, and Hikmatyar reached a peace deal with the Afghan government. So Pakistan always supported. If Pakistan did not want a peace process, how could Hizb Islami people meet here with the Afghan government?
Absolutely, sir. Maisa, what's your point of view, sir?
Do
you think that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that if the Americans do abruptly pull out, we'd have a repeat situation of what we saw happening in Iraq, what we also saw what was happening before the Taliban came into power? Complete chaos, breakdown, and civil war in Afghanistan is going to continue unabated. So these are the two possible scenarios. Then now
I think you are very right in pointing out these two things, and I was about to say about these two that abrupt pull out is also not a solution. and this solution will never be welcomed also. What to talk of Afghans, but for the longer relations of the NATO and the American forces also, which has remained committed in this area for such a long time now. It has been 18 years war. So they will not, what has been the end result of the war, they don't want to just go with a shame face from here. They also, and they want to have a, some justifications on the on a better note. They want to basically go away, and these CBMs which they are trying to work out with Taliban, that also is one kind of a success which speaks very loudly that they have finally accepted Taliban as a reality. Now that reality, once they have accepted Afghan Taliban is a reality, is exactly what they have accepted the Pakistan stance as well. Because Pakistan right from the day one has been saying that Afghan Taliban are a reality, though they may be limited to only in the south and in the east only, but they are reality and they are all over the country, and they are gearing up, and they will, and they are reality and they should be accepted. But then at that time, the Afghan, the Kabul regime, along with side with the American strength, they were trying to go away from this reality, and they were trying to pose a picture to the entire world outside Afghanistan that yes, Afghan Taliban may be present, but they are very limited and they are just close to Pakistan border, and that's it. And once they are pushed from here, they just go into Pakistan, and Pakistan once has a problem, then they run away into this area, and that is the only area they are basically operating. But that was not the reality. The reality was what Pakistan was telling them, that Afghan Taliban are present all over Afghanistan, and they are reality, and they should be kept into the mainstream, and they should be offered seats, and they should be offered a role to play in the Afghan peace. So that was the reality which probably the Americans never realized, and they went on to blaming of to Pakistan that Pakistan has not been on our side, and Pakistan has not worked for us, and they have worked against us.
Well, basically, sir, the do more mantra that we've been
do more mantra, exactly. They have been trying to push us on that. But finally, now what has happened is that they have accepted that Pakistan was absolutely right, and that is why you no more hear that do more mantra. And it has been, quiet on that front, I would say, for a while, maybe. Now, as far as total pullout, from Afghan, they may like to disengage from the main stream, I would say, battles, or where the Afghan and the Taliban are trying to lock their horns in. The Americans may not like to pull themselves into that. They may like to stay away from that, and they may like to just see from another vantage point as to what side is gaining the foothold of the land. And that is the reason that since they have lifted their hand onto that, the Afghan Taliban have thrusted themselves, and they are now pulling up, and they are going farther and farther and farther, and making sure that their writ is accepted by the Kabul regime. And now, after this election again, the Kabul regime has finally accepted that yes, Afghan Taliban are the reality, and they need to be brought into the mainstream. But we need to have certain rules for the game now, so that they are long lasting games. Again here, they are trying to miss a point, and they are trying to miss a very important power in this region, especially in relation to Afghanistan, that is Pakistan. And Pakistan does not want Indians' role in Afghanistan for that matter, because that is the reason that where the things they go offset, they're imbalanced. What the Americans are trying to do, if you remember, they were trying to find someone in this region, who suits them the most, would be given better role as a custodian or a watch guard, or for some that matter in Afghanistan, which can take their policy, can further go on with their policy, even if they are sitting miles away, but their policy can be implemented here. So that is what they are probably now looking for, an arrangement. They want to pull out, they want to reduce the number of their presence in there. They will not abandon totally. That's my vision, that they won't be abandoning. They may like to reduce the number, of course, but then they want to strengthen another body out there, which should continue for their, this program of theirs should be continued. And that is in shape of India, which suits them the most in this region.
So
It's
well,
not only from the
I'm
point
glad
of view of Pakistan.
I'm glad that you raised the issue of India now, because we can connect our second topic with this issue, sir, and that is the topic of water terrorism that India is now indulging in against Pakistan. Of course, we will be talking about Afghanistan in our subsequent programs, but right now I think we should also draw the attention of the world powers to what India is trying to do against Pakistan and trying to corner it, sir. We do not see any progress, sir, that's being made in the Indus Water Treaty. In fact, the Indus Water Treaty itself is now a big question mark. Talking about that, sir, how can we leverage some kind of support from the international community when it comes to dealing with water terrorism that India is indulging in? Tahir Sahib, if you would like to comment on this aspect.
I would in fact refer all of you to Prime Minister Imran Khan's today's statement in Saudi Arabia, because he was asked about the tense relationship between Pakistan and India, and which is also affecting investment and affecting the whole region, because we don't have a SAARC summit for almost now 2 years, and it is not a bilateral issue, it is a regional issue, but because of Indian refusal to come here to Islamabad, so it was. So Imran Khan was saying that Pakistan offered a dialogue to India to solve all these problems, including the water issue, terrorism even, because terrorism also part of the composite dialogue. But India is not sitting with us. And now when they accepted to meet, the two foreign ministers meet in New York, but abruptly they refused to, the meeting should take place. This is the problem, that if India is not talking to Pakistan,
absolutely,
so how can we issue the water issue? And so this is the problem that there.
So we've been joined on the line by Dr. Shahid Zia, who is a water expert. Let's get his opinion on how things stand. Dr. Saab, the Indian side has once again not honored its commitments to allow the Pakistani Permanent Indus Water Commission head and the delegation to visit India to see what's happening on the Chenab River, although they had promised to allow us to do that. So how do we move forward from this point, sir?
Basically, if we look at the Indian positions on water issue for the last many years, and the developments on that part of the subcontinent, it's very clear on their part that they are struggling, making all-out effort to make a good control over the water flowing from their territory to Pakistan and elsewhere. They did that to Bangladesh also, but let me focus on Pakistan, and they are not silent on that. Their Prime Minister said several times that we will deprive Pakistan to water, and they will be even seeking drops of water in the near future. So they have the intention to have a control on the water, and that's not that's the kind of aggression we are talking about. Not only they can control water from their side, they are also in a position whenever they want to, whenever they have a surplus, they can release that water to flood us. And on the western borders, they are supporting Afghanistan to have a similar design on the Kabul River, and they should also be able to stop that water or control that water. So the dialogue is the best option, and then we should continue to offer and tell the global community that the two neighbors only have a decent way to solve the solutions through dialogue, and India is not behaving as a kind of a sort of civilized nation. They are not committing to their promises. They are not committing to the agreements they have reached. They are not making a commitment to the UN and Security Council resolutions. And then they are claiming they are the largest democracy on the earth. they are not believing in the democratic means to solve these issues. If they will keep pushing Pakistan on waterfront, I'm afraid that can lead towards a bigger conflict in the region. You have seen in the past that Pakistani farmers, they organized a protest on Baga border, shouting that our atomic bomb is not for just a kind of a demonstration. With that, if you will push us for that kind of war, we are ready for that. And if the Pakistani farmers will start pushing government to do something to stop this starvation and sort of desertification of our farmlands, I'm afraid that will lead to a conflict.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for sharing your views with PTV World. Sir, you heard what Dr. Saab said. Majid Saab, one last comment, that can Pakistan approach the UN Security Council on this very important issue, because it is a matter of life and death?
I think it's not a choice, it is must that they have to gain strength in what they say, that what India is trying to do, and this kind of terrorism which they are trying to do against and by controlling water under a treaty. IWT was signed in the 1960s and they are repeatedly violating it, and now the stance is totally different also, and that is it's threatening that we will starve Pakistan, we will not only go for a war, but this is kind of a war. Pakistan has been thrusted by India into several such situations, and may it be Siachen, may it be Sir Creek, may it be Indus Water Treaty, just name a thing and they are there to really corner Pakistan on each and every issue. So this is what they feel, that now is the time that this is the best option they can do it. So for this, Pakistan needs very strong UN verdict on that, which should refrain India from doing it. At the same time, let me also add into it that Pakistan also need to see an inward policy as well to actually fight this thing. The enemy will always try to harm you, but you need to have something in the kitty for yourself as well. So if we can have a better water policy within the country also, I think we can start, that will be the step one to basically which will start fight against this menace of water terrorism which is being ignited by India.
All right, sir, thank you very much for taking all the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and in the end we always say that please draw your own conclusions from what you've heard, but it's important that the world wakes up to the water terrorism that India is indulging in, and sooner or later things will come to a head, and before that happens we must make efforts to not plunge this area into further destabilization and chaos, which will be to the detriment of the entire world. On that note, it's goodbye.
Of moonless nights. When handed a night bereft of, we pay tribute to the 156 Pakistani peacekeepers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the cause of world peace. Our diplomats have played a seminal role in shaping global norms, negotiating international treaties, and steering deliberations in a range of areas. They have presided over the General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Councils, and actively participated in the proceedings of the Human Rights Council and other UN platforms. On this day, we recognize and deeply value their service to the country and the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, as the United Nations pursues the conflict-preventing agenda, it is essential to recall the Jammu and Kashmir issue. The Security Council remains seized of this internationally recognized dispute for 7 decades. I call upon the Security Council to act upon its own resolutions. It is the duty of the Council to ensure realization of the inalienable right of Kashmiris to self-determination. The Council owes it to the Kashmiri people and the world at large to play its mandated role. The United Nations has authored a detailed report in June this year documenting the gross and systematic human rights violations in the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has welcomed the report. We reiterate our call on the Council and the international community for the establishment of a commission of inquiry to investigate the violations and abuses that continue in the Indian-occupied Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, the goals of peace and security and development will remain elusive unless we demonstrate our collective political will to prevent conflicts from emerging, resolve disputes that continue to fester, and work earnestly towards a global order premised on justice, equity, and respect for international law. We in Pakistan remain committed to pacific settlement of disputes as enshrined in the UN Charter. We will pursue a policy of partnership for peace, security, and prosperity in our immediate neighborhood and beyond. We will work with the United Nations, our friends and partners, in taking forward this vision and policy. I thank you. Neil, you touched on a number of issues dealing with human rights, dealing with poverty alleviation, and how the United Nations and Pakistan can partner for the betterment of our region and of our country. I acknowledge the positive role played by UN agencies. I recall very clearly in July 2010, when we were hit by a devastating flood, how the United Nations and the UN agencies in Pakistan played a significant role in helping the people out of that very difficult situation. I also am aware of the fact that UNDP, perhaps in the 90s, did play an important role in institutional reform. And we do need reforms. We need to rebuild our institutions. Poverty alleviation is an important area, and this government gives priority to poverty alleviation. And there are many examples in the world, good practices that can be sort of introduced in Pakistan to help people out of poverty. We have an excellent working relationship, Pakistan, the UN agencies, and we admire and we cherish the contributions that you have made as an organization. We would like to partner with you. We have been partners in peacekeeping and in other areas, and we will continue to support you and your agencies in Pakistan. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now we shall play a short video.
Nuclear deal. I mean, that's also a real-time lesson for the rest of the countries. I mean, Americans, the way they have scrapped that entire development, and that was again a big breakthrough.
Indeed.
You know, after 40 years, you know, of Iranian revolution, that was a thumping achievement. I believe that was perhaps Obama's,
most tremendous achievement. And like she said, I mean,
I think the Paris Climate Accord was far more significant, but
well, more significant for our children, definitely.
Well, we'll leave it at that, sir. Thank you very much for
Thank
taking
you.
out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, we like to say, please draw your own conclusions from what you've heard. On that note, it's goodbye.
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Shandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Shandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level. The first time a polo tournament took place on the Shandur Pass was in 1936. It is a place unique and exotic in itself, surrounded by some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in the world. The event marks the annual rivalry between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The polo tournament has some added attractions for the visitors. Trout fishing.
और ये जो वेस्ट डिस्पोजल है, हम गंदगी फेंक देते हैं, पता नहीं चलता किधर. इनके लिए लैंडफिल साइट्स वो हर शहर में, हर गांव में तैयार करेंगे. इंशाल्लाह 5 साल के बाद वो पाकिस्तान बनेगा कि जब आप हमारे लोग यूरोप जाएंगे और वापस आएंगे तो इंशाल्लाह ये यूरोप से ज़्यादा साफ हमें नज़र आएगा इंशाल्लाह. तो मैं आप सबका, मैं जो पाकिस्तान के स्कूल के बच्चे हैं, जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, एक दफ़ा आपने मेरी एक बड़ी ज़बरदस्त कैंपेन में शिरकत की थी जो पाकिस्तान की तारीख़ की इस तरह की फ़ंड रेजिंग कैंपेन कभी नहीं हुई. अब वक्त आ गया है कि आप सब ने कैंपेन लीड करनी है, क्योंकि आपकी फ्यूचर है. आप वो पाकिस्तान चाहते हैं जो साफ़ हो, और ये आप याद रखना, ये माइंडसेट की बात है. आप जब अपने ज़हन में ये अज़म कर लेते हैं, फ़ैसला कर लेते हैं कि हमने सफाई करनी है, फिर सफाई हो जाएगी. हमने सिर्फ ये माइंडसेट से निकलना है कि ये तो पाकिस्तान ऐसा ही था तो ऐसा ही रहेगा. सिंगापुर में जब मैं पहली दफ़ा सिंगापुर गया तो उनका जो दरिया सिंगापुर रिवर जो गुज़रता था, गंदगी थी, सूरज थी सारी. 10 सालों के अंदर उनका एक प्राइम मिनिस्टर आया, वो दरिया के अंदर अब मछलियाँ हैं, साफ़ पानी है. तो ये सब चीज़ें हो सकती हैं इंशाल्लाह. आज हम आगाज़ कर रहे हैं एक साफ़ और हरा क्लीन एंड ग्रीन पाकिस्तान का. बहुत शुक्रिया.
And resonance from sympathetic strings, bridge design, a long hollow neck, and a gourd-shaped resonance.
The 2014 6 gunmen affiliated with the banned terrorist organization Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan attacked and entered the Army Public School in Peshawar and killed over 150 people, including 132 school children. The parents of martyred children had demanded to constitute a commission to probe the incident. Now, a Taliban delegation has met U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad in Qatar to discuss ending the Afghan conflict. Afghan Taliban spokesman Zabiullah Mujahid, in a statement sent to journalists, confirmed the development, which is the first official confirmation of talks between the two sides. The meeting with Khalilzad and other American officials took place in Doha on Friday. The landmark meeting was held as Khalilzad seeks to coordinate efforts with regional countries, including Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, to bring the Taliban to the negotiating table. The Taliban